Welcome to the 22 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday brief edition, October 9th, 2022. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest pure, unadulterated financial news, the latest news that is going on in the United States and sometimes abroad. Right now, we're just going to briefly talk about the inflation fight. We know that the Federal Reserve has a long way to go, as well as the jobs report, which is showing that the unemployment rate, although it has dropped somewhat by 0.5 percentage points, the number of job openings is still increasing, and the number of people just silent quitters, they call it, that are quitting the job market altogether and working on their own is increasing in America as we speak. And so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, end of September. Jobs gain affirmed that the Fed has a long way to go to fight inflation, quote the CNBC.com. Non-farm payrolls report provided, quote, both assurance that the jobs market is strong and that the Fed will have to do more to slow it down. So this means that they will continue to raise rates by 75 basis points. They have one more rate hike coming in November. They predicted an 82% chance of a 75% rate hike in November, then a 0.5 increase, a 50 point basis point hike in December, followed by another 0.25 move in February. So we have three more rate hikes coming. And this economy is already struggling, as you know. It's not just because people are having jobs or working side jobs, extra side jobs to make ends meet. It's struggling because the whole economy, the U.S. is based on debt-based economy, basically. You borrow a dollar based in debt to gain a dollar based in debt. And so when we have a slowdown like this here, the experts are debating whether the Fed will continue another 75 basis rate hike. They have no other choice but to continue. To continue these rate hikes mean that they're going to sacrifice both the stock market and the economy. The Main Street and the stock market are both going to be sacrificed to get this under control. And will he have to go as far as Paul Volcker? I don't know. We don't know the answer to that. But right now, they're committed to rate hikes for the next year or two beyond just the November elections. And as a result, the U.S. consumer, quote unquote, according to Markets Watch, we're picking up speed by borrowing. So now we're borrowing more. Credit is being extended. But the problem with borrowing more, as you know, that the interest rates are continuing to be high on these credit cards, 20% or higher APR. Auto loans, even on used loans, have you noticed that the loans on that are now picking up to 8, 10%, 12% on these auto loans, on all of that as well. And so it is really, really, really crazy. And so the more that we borrow, the more that it's going to cost us to pay it back. And that is the problem. Total U.S. consumer credit rose $32.2 billion in August. That's up from $26.1 billion in the U.S. But it's not just us. It's not just the average American that's borrowing. It's the whole federal government that's borrowing more money. You know, the national debt is over $31 trillion. I remember talking about this last year where we were just eclipsing 28 trillion as if that was a big number. Now we're over 31 trillion and the borrowing just can't stop right now. We have a lot on the payroll, and we have the baby boomers that are retiring. They are retiring they really retired starting last year, the year before last, in 2020. So from 2020 to 2025, the majority of the baby boomers will be retiring or out of the job market, at least on a full-time basis. And the generation behind that, Generation X, has a lot of debt, and the millennials and the other generation, they have a lot of debt from student loans and other bills that may arise as life presents itself. So this is going to create a lot of headwinds for the Federal Reserve, who's trying to quell inflation by raising these rates. It would have been better if they just raised rates, go ahead and get out the way and raise rates by 2 or 3 basis points at a time instead of these little incremental 0.75 basis points. Go ahead and rip the band-aid off, because that would give us a chance to try to heal. But we can't heal when they're doing like a little scrape at a time, because that means inflation is going to continue to be above 8 or 9 or 10%. We know real inflation is at 20% right now, looking at food, gas, utilities, transportation, and logistical costs to move all these goods around in America. So this is where the jobs are in September 2022 in one chart. Ladies and gentlemen, leisure and hospitality was a standout sector. Well, that's obvious. Have you noticed in most of these cities, towns, suburbs, exurbs, hinterland, most of the new construction they're building is what? A Taco Bell, like a fast food restaurant, right? A new gas station, or it's a new storage shed. Have you seen these new these cube storage places that are going up all over the place? Mini storage places, or long-term storage places, quote unquote. That's because they're getting ready for the great eviction crisis, when the moratoriums are going to be lifted on these rent moratoriums in California and other states, and as well as the the crisis that's going to go with the eviction crisis when the rates get too high and people can't afford the property taxes on these houses and on these land that they own. That's what they're getting ready for. You've noticed that. Next time you're driving around, look at how many new storage unit places are building up now. Cube storage, mini storage, etc. Look how many new fast food places are coming up now, because that's all we can basically afford. There's places like Taco Bell or KFC or whatever, this fast food of your choice, Raising Cane's or whatever they have. That's what's going up, and gas stations. So healthcare, quote, according to this article by CNBC, has now returned to its pre-pandemic levels, according to the Labor Department. Hospitals and ambulatory services added 28,000 jobs in September. So now I admit that some sectors are recession-proof. Healthcare is one of those sectors that are recession-proof. Government, obviously, some of the professional and business services and the trades like plumbing, electricians, plumbers, things like that. We get it that they're recession-proof. The secret is going to be the caveat for those type of professions are that they are going to consolidate. We're going into a consolidation of, when we get into a privatization or a consolidation of healthcare, police forces, what else? Prison services, things of that nature, then that's going to create less net jobs in these areas. So right now, yes, leisure and hospitality, they say they gained 83,000 jobs in 1 month. Healthcare, 74,000, 75,000. Information, another one to watch out too was information technology, IT, and robotics. As you know, we're moving toward a automation economy where they no longer need the labor of Americans physically that much anymore, and most of the call center jobs have already been shipped overseas to Philippines, Thailand, Africa, India, you name it. So IT jobs are going to be very important. So most of those are in college, and those who, I'm not a financial planner, but those who are in college and those who are out of college and all that, IT, information security, cybersecurity, and learn how to program robots and, to do different things. Because whether you know it or not, they're recording our speech patterns on Google and they're recording our typing patterns to get these robots and things as human as possible, as humanly close to as possible, so they can use it for later. The companies and stuff, that is. So the tech companies and the high tech and the corporate bureaucracy. So information technology will be a sector that will be recession proof as well. As you know, transportation lost jobs, financial activities lost jobs, and government lost jobs at some of the local and state type of deals. And transportation has a lot to do with the cost. Truckers have been given more time, the licensing fees and all of that, guys, and also just the cost of gas. Gas is going to go up. I told you that last time. Gas is going to go back up to $4 a gallon before we get to the midterms, and it's already starting to creep up. As you've seen it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, gas has creeped up at least the last week or so by 5 cents, and this is nationwide, 5 to 8 cents nationwide on regular unleaded, and it's going to continue to creep up and with all these disruptions, either planned or unplanned. And so let's continue to prepare, not just with food and water security and all that stuff. We need to prepare mentally for being in this for a long haul, because basically this is going to be for the next 3 to 4 years as they wind down all of this free money that's been given to corporations and everybody else but the general American public, that we got crumbs. The stimulus check was $1,200, which was really nothing compared to what the bailouts that other companies and other places have gotten. So we have to buckle down for the long haul. Let's conserve our resources. Let's conserve, let's make sure we rotate our stock of food, water. Make sure you rotate first in, last out, etc. You guys know, and also security wise and all of that, because we're in it for the long haul. We're in it for after the midterms. We're in it for after the next 2 years, 3 years. It's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, because the Fed has a long way to go to fight inflation. This has been in the media for a while now. If inflation is at according to their numbers, at 8.5%, right? Real inflation is at 20%, and you're only raising rates. The Fed funds rate is only at 3.5% right now. That means you have to raise, in a normal economy, right? You have to raise rates to above the rate of inflation in order to bring down inflation. So rates right now should be at 9 or 10%. They are not. They're only at 3.5%. So what does that tell you? You don't need a PhD or a rocket scientist to figure out that inflation is here to stay, and that's going to be the way that they bring it down. This is a Venezuela style economy we're going to. It's going to be inflation, then it's going to be hyperinflation, then the deflation comes. The deflation will come when all of the liquidity is drained out of the system, meaning that the credit market shut down. Housing market is coming up next it's slowing down now. As you can see, it's taking longer and longer for these houses to sell out the market, and those who do have houses, the appreciation value that we've seen in the last 2 years, that's being knocked down. You're no longer seeing a 10K or 15K appreciation every year. year, it's starting to come back down to normal levels. So that's a bad sign. I'm seeing houses now that on sale in the market for 2-3 months easily now, whereas before you were getting offers for 20, 30, 100,000 over offer some of these times. That tells me that the institutional money and these groups that are buying these houses are starting to slow down now, and it's depreciating as well. So we have a long way to go, but the good news is that we're blessed that we all have an opportunity to do a little bit of something every day, whether that's buying more food, buying more water, buying more clothes, winter clothes, as we know, energy costs is going up, or buying more security items. There's always something to do in the prep, and I'm so glad that this community is involved in not just prepping for the sake of prepping, but helping others to prep in our community, in our neighborhoods, and just doing it in a way that is circumspect, that is private, nothing showboating or anything, but just doing it in a way to help everybody involved, and I help our families as we go through this time that everybody's saying is going to be quote unquote painful. So God bless you as we start this week. Get some fresh air. Enjoy the rest of this week. It's a beautiful fall foliage. Get out and enjoy the fall foliage if you're in those areas that the leaves change colors and stuff. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode tomorrow. God bless. Talk to you very soon. Thank you for listening.